I'm
Oh, you want to leave me
drunk.
Right,
I think we're all inebriated in some fashion.
I forgot about it.
The TERFening.
I'm like, personal use not monetized. It's not letting me fucking pick it though. Oh, I'm gonna reload.
Hello, Eva. I'm Masha.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Fuck!
I can't open my brownies, guys.
Right now. Let's go right now.
Are you live casting right now?
No, I'm trying to, but I'll see what happens. I really don't know what I'm doing right now. I hope it's on the right channel. I hope.
In and out.
I honestly don't know. Like I don't know.
I'm being accosted by animals. I'm sorry. There's a cat here. She's all wet.
I love it. Cat butt is the best.
Yeah, she was sitting in the sink. So she's
lucky
really
cat
wet.
butt.
But if it doesn't work out, I'll just be like, sorry, we fucked up.
Good excuse.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna tell the truth. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. I'm literally like, I really put the elder millennial when it comes to anything related to tech. Like it's like I'm reading a different language.
Elder millennial. How old are you, elder millennial? What?
I'm 35, so I'm like I'm like the
okay.
Well, elder millennial, like the oldest millennial, I think is my sister, who's 3 years older than me. So yeah, I am an elder. I'm an elder.
Then thought I had 8 hours.
Go and do your shit, dude.
Okay, I'm muting this so I can hear you, but I'm not gonna be audible anyway. Okay, see you in a moment.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell Bunny, Eva, Bunny. So Bunny is the former, she doesn't mind the term sex worker, so that's how she likes to be referred to. So former sex worker who was my first guest of that series, Porn Sick Dystopia. Eva works,
sounds good.
Writes for Redux.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check.
Yeah. On today's TERF panel, I am your host. I'm a female supremacist, Masha Jagasdottir.
I love your name.
Thank you. Do you know that I made it up? So yeah, Jagasdottir. Yeah, it's because I wanted a matrilineal name, and my mother's first name is Jagoda, so I took like the Icelandic like matronomial form and just like applied it to myself. That's Jagoda was my mother, so I'm Jagasdottir. I'll go to Katelyn next, and then Eva, and then Bunny.
Okay, my name is Katelyn. I'm a former actress. I was the star of the film called Porno, and I am anti-porn. I know that seems like an oxymoron. And I think that the gender ideology issue is so important that I set my entire life on fire. I quit acting, broke up with my manager and my agent, and started speaking out. And that's where I'm at right now. I have a channel called Red Moon Radio on YouTube, and we're just starting this on Rumble. So
great.
What are you, Eva?
All right. No, let me introduce her. Now I'd like to hear from Canada's Preeminent
Lesbian.
My reputation precedes me. I'm Eva. I'm Canada's Preeminent Lesbian on Twitter. And I do a lot of writing about the gender issue and how it impacts women and how it impacts children. I write for Gender Dissent. I write for a Substack called The Distance, which is a Substack of LGB United. And I also write for Redux, which is a fantastic outlet. And I'm super proud to be associated with all of those three. And that's me.
Okay, hey, I'm Bunny. I'm a former sex worker, current TERF. I learned a lot over my decade working primarily catering to autogynophiliacs, and that led me down the path of where I'm at today. So now I spend my free time advocating for other vulnerable and victimized girls and women.
There you go.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna put under my tweet, I'm a liar and I suck it.
Oh my God, this is on. I overpromised and underdelivered big time. So please
Okay.
tell people that I'm the problem. It's me.
So at Jagasdottir,
Just blame me. Just blame me. It's fine.
So Masha is terrible with
Yeah.
technology.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, and so am I. So am I. So unfortunately, this will be coming to a
Uploaded video.
laptop near you.
Yes. Because Masha
Elder,
can't get along with Zoom.
he fucked up.
Listen, we're really close though. We have all of the technologies. We have all of the capabilities.
All right, and I'm just gonna share this to my.
Katelyn, I love you. I'm sorry. You did such a good job.
I mean, I'm not like a
can't do
live
it.
person because I know it's whatever, but like I feel like I say too many things that are bad. Or like we have my favorite Bunny here who like kept saying she had to eradicate the pedos. And I think using the word eradicate about any human is
It seems
in ours
so
you said
sorry.
kill. You literally said kill them though. In our video, you were like, we should just kill them.
oh, and I posted that. And
I
I'm
know.
posting that to fucking TikTok so that I'll get my third because I figured they're gonna ban me. They take my videos down just for calling a man. I've only started trying to TERF on TikTok the last like the last few months, and that app really scares me. So I will put one on and then I won't touch it for like a couple weeks, and then I'll open it and be like, oh, well, it got removed, and like it's like the nicest things. So I'm just gonna say kill him. And honestly, I do. I think we should. I am totally fine saying this serial pedophile who's has 60 victims deserves to fucking rot.
I'm fine saying that. Yep.
I
The
mean,
only reason I don't support the death penalty is if we could be wrong, but if we could be certain, I'm fine.
Yeah, like
Here's my-
exactly 100%.
my reasoning behind my hateful eradicate the pedos thing is their victims are pretty much dead.
I just was listening to it as editing,
Right.
and I was like, that sounds like very like someone. I was like, what's gonna happen if I post this? Is some fucking TRA is gonna edit you saying that and edit some other thing and put it together and say that I said eradicate.
I mean,
So that's why I decided to cut out eradicate. That's all. I just feel like I do think
say
the word
all the wrong
eradicate just
things.
should not be used anymore because eradicate just lends itself to people thinking about genocide.
Yep.
Listen, I wore
We'll
my
try
good
not to say it.
Adidas. I really wanted us to be live.
Yeah, I'm glad we're not going live tonight.
probably a good call.
Okay, can you hear them now?
Let's see if you bring the goods.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're not on the spot or anything. Well, actually, technically, you are on the spot, but my job is to actually relax.
Conversations.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've listened to a lot of stuff on your channel, so
Starting
that's
with,
why I wanted to be on it.
where'd you start, Emily?
Okay, so the can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the man on the right is Benjamin Boyce, and he's the host of a channel called Conversations.
Oh, he's my friend. I've been on his channel 4 times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely watched you act on his channel. Anyway, so I'm just introducing him to okay. And so this is kind of his like ASMR way of talking, I guess. To me, I don't vibe with him, but what is your impression just in the snap second of the man on the right? To those who are unfamiliar with him.
He's always, no offense, Benjamin Boyce, but he's always just come off as uninteresting to me because I've known who he is for a couple of years now, and I've never once watched his stuff.
Been vaguely aware of his existence. I feel like he tends to operate more in the like political sphere. Am I wrong about that? Again, yeah, same as Katelyn. He's not in my algorithm. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
aware of him, but I don't really know much about him.
There. And the man on the left is, I believe he's presented as Phil here. I'm not sure.
Phil Illy. Yeah.
Phil Illy. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we will continue with their vibes.
Journey through the political domains.
I ran into your channel when I first learned about autogynophilia,
Oh,
and that was around April 2019. And I think you were one of the people that had done interviews with Blanchard or Bailey by that point.
Zucker,
I'm not. Yeah, so
and Cantor.
I found your channel that way, and yeah, I've been paying attention to the sort of heterodox IDW sort of political space, and you're in there. So,
You know what? I am. But by actually being heterodox, like I go into more domains than most heterodox people.
I'm like really tempted to like speed up the clip. Is that a thing that we feel like we want to do? Because they're so.
It would take a long time.
Like,
He does have that slow.
So wait, so did he learn about autogynophilia because he became an autogynophile, or did he become an autogynophile because he learned like what the fuck is that about?
He is one, and then he like went and tried to find out what it was.
He is.
To his credit, like he really, I have a lot to say obviously, but he really did go and try to find out what it really was, not just the trans narrative of like, well, you're a woman, So then he did a lot of reading, and yeah.
Did he watch a lot of porn, and is that why he became an AGP? Because I want to like, that's what I'm trying to understand is like
his back. Yeah. How did
he
he?
might get
I haven't watched. Let's see what he said. Let's see how he became.
I don't know if we'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Time and a half. Let's see if this works better.
The anti-gatekeeper, kind of like the multi digger.
Exactly, and yeah, that's why I want to be on the channel, because you have like everyone on.
I haven't had couples on, and I don't think I want to, but
Maybe I'll slow it down to 1 1/4.
It's funny fast.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Would want to be on?
Well, no. So that takes a lot of pressure off of me. I don't like the people who try to end conversations. So my stated goal from the very beginning of this project that I'm on is just to completely ignore the people who are basically assholes and anti-discourse. So
Yeah.
just leave them out. They don't want to be a part of it by their behavior. Where
That's you,
did you begin
Katelyn.
politically in your journey through life?
I started out pretty conventional for my milieu of being a college student, that, pretty conventional lefty sort of politics. And so that was my milieu and my thoughts for a long time, because I hadn't been exposed to anything else. And then I got a little interested in libertarianism for a bit, because that adds an extra dimension to the thinking, the anti-authoritarian aspect. And I'm a freedom lover, because I'm born in the USA. And so I like that aspect of libertarianism, how it brings freedom. And I've been, reading a little bit of stuff that may be a little more right-wing recently, just to I want to check out all aspects of political thought and decide what to keep and what to jettison. Yeah. And so, yeah, when I first learned about autogynophilia, like 3-4 years ago, it kind of blew my mind that there was this sexual orientation that millions of people had, that the knowledge of it.
Stop this for a second. Autogynophilia is not a sexual orientation. Autogynophilia is a paraphilia. Okay.
Yeah.
So can we just get that out? That it's
that's his whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope.
So autogynophilia is a paraphilia or a fetish. And let's just quickly say what a kink versus a fetish is, because they get mixed up too much. So a kink is like, like you hear someone having sex next to you in a hotel, and that turns you on for a second with your partner, and you masturbate or like you have sex because of it. That's kinky. A fetish is if then that is required for you to even have gratification. So that's a very distinct and very important difference between a fetish and a kink. Since we're in the age of no kink shaming, I'm a fucking kink shamer, but
I'll kink shame all day long. I'll kink shame.
me too.
yeah, like so sexuality is something that's also is natural, right? So we see homosexuality and heterosexuality in nature in everything. Like not every, like, you know, any other, like it's across the animal kingdom. It's not just human beings. I'm pretty sure monkeys aren't fucking autogynophiles, but you know, correct me if I'm wrong.
That would be hilarious.
Maybe bonobos. I could see them getting up to some fucked up shit.
I could see that, yeah.
All right, shall we?
Yep.
Portland, there's plenty of trans people in my social networks. You'd think, you know, I thought surely in that sort of a milieu, I would have heard, you know, some of, you know, what causes transgenderism and would have been knowledgeable about that, but that may have been exactly why I hadn't heard about it. And so, yeah, it was kind of it was really strange to realize I had a sexual orientation and the people covering it up were the people that had the orientation the most strongly. It's a very odd situation I'm in.
What's the alternative to that? So what were the assumptions that left out or obscured or ignored autogynophilia in regards to transgenderism?
I just had never heard it really mentioned before.
Someone just knows they're trans?
Yeah, it's just trans people are people that feel more on the inside that they're like the other gender. And it's just this internal gnosis and they just know. And we don't really know why it happens, but it just seems to happen. That's sort of the mainstream like look on it.
Yeah, maybe some smattering of brains, like a brain is wired like a woman, even though the body's
right. It's sort of like a neurological form of intersex that's localized to the brain in a way. Yeah, and I heard that too. And the thing that confused me about it is that I wished that I was female, and I could tell that this was born out of my admiration and love of them. And so it was because I love women and I wanted to be one.
I have something to say.
We pause to like that statement. Yeah.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, I just wanted to draw attention to that. Like, I don't think this guy is a terrible guy. I don't hate him, but I don't really like that statement. I don't think that it's born out of an admiration or love of women. I just don't. And the stuff he says later on just kind of
You don't think it comes from his little lady brain? His little lady brain loving the ladies so much?
To be fair, he's not saying he's got one, but
yeah, I always ask them, like, what is a woman brain? Do you have any tangible at all? Just
also, I think he's lying. I think he is not a gynophile because he's a porn addict, personally. I really do, because this isn't like, so is he saying he never even had like heard of transgenderism or like had never heard of autogynophilia? Like, how is he saying he like became trans?
He's gonna give an origin story. He is going to, and I'm sure you'll have lots to say. Yeah.
Sorry,
All right.
And it's just, no one told me.
What about loving woman would be the pull, but is there a disgust or dislike or disappointment with being a man too, like a push?
Right, yeah. When it comes to the gender issues, there is that there's the pull of being pulled towards the thing you want, and there's also the repulsion from your natal gender characteristics, because the orientation makes you downvalue, diminish the importance of your natal gender characteristics and raise the importance of the other one. And so over time, the orientation makes you think it's less worth being your natal gender. It's hard to find worth in it. And it's the other gender sort of is like exalted and amazing, and you really want to be that thing. And so there's sort of it changes your sentiments over time so that you can develop repulsion to your, default gender characteristics.
When did you start? I'm assuming that you have had a gender journey. We're talking about we're kind of talking about it like in terms of Portland and third person, but for you, when did it first spark or pain consciousness?
So
I'm just gonna take some notes. How likely is it on the balance that a gender journey would start in Portland?
Inconceivable. I don't know what you're talking about.
Never happened.
Doesn't happen, no.
No.
I guess the most salient experience is in 2013. I was at a Lady Gaga concert. It was on her Born This Way ball tour, it was very epic and it's a great show. And while at that concert, I'd taken some mushrooms, as one does, and there was one point during the performance where I started having this internal feeling that there was this like feminine soul inside of me that was just like upwelling, this really intense sense that there's this powerful feminine energy inside of me, and it like started making my body overheat and like, you know, got a little sweaty and, you know, energetic feeling. I was just sitting during this, so that's why I noticed that. And
Yeah.
it confused the shit out of me. Yeah, that experience made me kind of paranoid that I was transgender for half a year or so, until I could stop thinking about it.
How old were you?
Doing math, around 25. Yeah, and so that, yeah, it was like around 10 years ago, and I had that experience, and I finally got myself to stop thinking about it. You know, the repression way of pushing it to the side, and yeah, and it.
So that signal that you received was visceral.
Oh yeah,
physical. What about the emotional and the symbolical content?
It was very emotionally satisfying, and I realized, I can tell in hindsight that I had, so that experience of feeling like you have a female soul inside of you, or like where you switch into a feminine mind state, categorize that as terminology sort of stuff. And that term comes from the Therian and other kin communities, people identify as animals or other non-human entities. And so, yeah, there's this phenomenon.
Do you think it's like the Scientology, like Thetans? Is it like that? Like, is your like, what is this? What is this like internal?
It is
gendered thing. Like, is that?
They never.
How do you, like, what is a fucking feminine mindset? What is a feminine soul?
Yes, exactly.
Like, so all this was on mushrooms.
They'll never give you a clear cut.
So I have like a little bit of a segue story I kind of want to tell in relation to mushrooms in this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just like, I had a repressed memory surface. I'm not going to go into like long detail about that, but my experience of it first coming up happened when I was sober, and I didn't know exactly what was happening, but it was exactly like when the one and only time I tripped on mushrooms when I was 16. And so when I eventually figured out what was going on and like what the memory was, I thought about that, and it had a lot to do with like muscle realignment. And I have a very strong feeling that when I was on mushrooms at 16, it was opening up parts of my brain that were like parts of my memories that were just shut off. And so that's why I had this traumatic sort of experience again when it started sort of coming to the surface. So I'm wondering what kind of traumas in his past that might have been coming out that makes him like have this experience, or what might be stored in his brain that the mushrooms kind of started bringing to the surface, but that it clearly impacted him in a way that was almost like frightening, or he didn't know how to think about it. And so he just went to try to shut it down again.
That's really interesting, because I also had an experience on mushrooms that brought up a whole lot of trauma, and I haven't done them since. And I would say all in all, I felt better after, but yeah, I kind of had the same thing happen. And so when I tell people like I had a terrible experience on mushrooms, LSD is fine. But
well, the thing is, I did mushroom tea after sort of like exercising a lot of this trauma out, after I figured out what it was, and it didn't happen again. I mean, it was mushroom tea. It wasn't like I went and rolled hard like I did when I was 16, but or tripped hard or whatever the word is. But I tried it again this summer. I tried mushroom tea, and all that like really, really anxious stuff that would come up whenever I like would get stoned or have like that, like something like that. It didn't happen.
That's really good to hear, because I've been scared to try it again, but I have I have access to some, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do this, because
if you haven't worked through the memories that were coming up, it will keep happening until you work through them. But
Well, there's also like
But,
exposure therapy, right? Like if you,
yeah,
if
you could
want to-
you could do it, and you have a partner that you've had for a long
Yeah.
time, like
Yeah.
she could kind of guide you through the process and help you, and you
like
might
really
discover,
good trick sitter. Yeah.
like because if you know that it might be bad and you kind of are
Yeah.
prepared for it, it might change your experience too. It's like, as you know that it's part of something you're working through, but it does, I think,
Yeah.
open up parts of your brain that are locked away.
I think it
Or you're
does. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, that's a good insight into what he's saying.
Yeah.
With autogynophilia and autoandrophilia, where you feel like you have the other gendered soul inside of you, or it like comes to the forefront, and it makes you feel like you're the other gender, and it's very emotionally satisfying. And
Because you feel complete, or what
yeah,
is it?
basically the warmth, you're heterosexual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you've gotten the warm fuzzies from being with women before, right? Where you feel like, oh, I feel complete. I feel very satisfied internally.
Yeah.
This is very comforting. That feeling, that's the sort of thing that comes from gender euphoria and from these mental shifts.
Huh.
And because
What do you think about that? Like the most ultimately self-referential kind of like way of describing sexual intimacy, like the warm and fuzzies you get from like real sexual intimacy is the same as his like internal perceived feeling of like autogynophilic euphoria or whatever.
I don't think he's telling the truth. I really don't.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's lying about his euphoria. I think he's not being honest about that it's arousal, that he's getting an
Yeah.
erection around it, that it's like, I don't think, I just am having a hard time believing he's being truthful based on my conversations with Bunny, who just had to step away real quick, and based on my conversations with Roxy in the Porn Sick Dystopia series I'm working on. And I had an AGP reach out to me via TikTok or to Twitter in my DMs. It's all, I feel like so much of this is porn induced and no one wants to admit it.
Yeah.
Or that at least is not coming from warm, fuzzy, romantic feelings. I mean, that in and of itself, it's like gross, but I just don't think it's honest either.
Oh, it's absolutely porn.
I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of kind of trying to describe it. And I think that he's just not going all the way, right? Because warm fuzzies do it's the start of a sexual feeling. Oftentimes,
Okay,
if you're attracted
fair.
to someone and you have those fuzzy feelings, like it's kind of leading there, right? So I don't think they don't, unfortunately. Yeah, he should be honest. I feel like it would have been great if they touched on the porn thing. I also feel like it was just kind of like sorry, my cat's chasing my dog. Kind of a good way to try and be honest, just not all the way, is my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. To me,
You're so
it's
much
like
nicer than me, Eva.
I'm not trying to be, but
it did seem like masturbatory in the sense of like it's like it definitely sounded like, and also kind of like, but in the self-soothing category, like and potentially also like to kind of like play off of Katelyn, what you were saying, like the traumatized child that can develop precocious sexuality, they also self-soothe sometimes inappropriately with masturbation or with yeah. So that came up for me here.
The way I describe it in the book that I wrote is that it's when you're in union with your inner cross-gender spirit, this like internal marriage or relationship, it's when you're in touch with that side of yourself. That's when the warm fuzzy feelings come. And so it's very emotionally fulfilling and validating, and that reinforces the behaviors that led to it. And so it makes you over time unite more fully and integrate with that side of yourself.
So when a heterosexual male, when a man and a woman come together and they like each other,
So what that sounded like to me is that he's using a shitload of euphemism to describe an acceleration of a fetish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, okay, like as I've been sifting through my decades worth of customer notes, the majority of the men, when I say majority, we're talking like 99.9% of the people I've personally catered to their autogynophilia. They are addicted to porn, and they have other paraphilias, which that's what autogynophilia is. It's not a sexual orientation. Paraphilias rarely exist in a vacuum. So you're all onto it. They're born out of trauma, the precocious, the early sexual experiences they shouldn't have had. All of that folds in together, and it's rarely in a vacuum. So when you hear an autogynophiliac, they're never being fully honest. And why would they be? I'm sure it's very embarrassing. But there's something that, in my opinion, that happened to them as like a male child, which makes them somehow in their brain identify that with like a darkness or sexual trauma, and they think they can control it by becoming this other female, and their feelings, they get off on being viewed and sexualized as a female. And I tend to think maybe that's like their inner child again. I forgot who said it, but trying to take control of that past experience as an adult. And this is all subconscious. And the guy, he seems like a nice person, but he's not being honest at all.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's like, he thinks he is because he's offering kind of nuggets, like he is kind of starting to lead to it. And I agree, like I really don't think he's terrible. My issues are with kind of just the way he phrases female spirit, female mind, like that's where I have my problems. But he's definitely not the worst of them.
No, not at all. But yeah, it is painful to hear people saying the females, like shut the fuck.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bond elicits. There's that other person and the consumption of the other person, and they're in another locality, but depending on the intensity of the romantic push, like you want to be inside of them. And I don't mean that just physically. I mean, you want to be in their presence. You want them inside of you. There's this,
but you want to be enveloped by them.
But there's someone else there. But also in that romantic state, you're imagining, you're projecting all this stuff onto them that isn't really them. And then over time, like they come more and more into focus. But without that other, inside, how do you grapple with that? How do you like in a more physical way? How do you like you can squeeze a woman that you love as far as she loves you? I'm not saying just squeeze a woman. I'm just saying that you can, sure, but you don't have that, and it's just emotional, spiritual.
Just squeeze all the woman juice out of that woman.
Pointer squeezer is.
I
love
him.
Men cannot help themselves. They can't fucking help themselves. It's just.
I have a really big soft spot for Benjamin. This is hilarious. I do. He's my friend. I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be such a bitch saying he's uninteresting.
You guys can say whatever you want. It's totally fine.
So wait, Masha, but when he said he doesn't have them on, did he say Rad Femme specifically?
Before? No. I think he said people that refuse to participate in discourse, like kind of as equals, or like I was joking. I wasn't calling you wow. I just think that like there's some things you draw pretty like a solid boundary, and I think that might.
Oh yeah.
I was joking, at the end of the day. But...
No, it's fair. I mean, I was just curious because when I had Scott on, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a feminist," or I would have said no.
What?
Yeah, that was weird.
I like Scott actually. We ended up getting on, and she went on in detail about her experience, and I understood it, but it was just really funny because Rad Femmes have a bad rep with some groups.
You know what? Like she's hot to me because I was like into like females that like are kind of like have bravado or like typically butch like females. So it's like,
well, Scott was stunning.
Why?
When before transition, so Scott's attractive. Like
right
in both cases, you can't really go wrong with the way God created his or her. I really try to only use sex-based pronouns, but I forget with Scott sometimes.
It's tough. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, there is some dissatisfaction to that, to not being able to hold that other self in that sort of tangible way. But the hard part about it is when you're dating a woman outside of yourself, you can break up with them, and you can become separate from them. But when you have an orientation that's looking for a woman inside of yourself, you can't escape yourself. You can't break up with her, and you just have to figure out how to live with her.
Okay, yeah.
it's there's no yeah, it's
well, I can see if that, and insofar as that's happened to me, I've channeled that through literature. Like
What's up, Bunny?
I'm sorry, whenever he drinks out of the bottle, I think about the Napoleon Dynamite scene with the gator. I'm just ignore me giggling here.
No worries. I like it.
And my relationship to the feminine has always been, my job is to make them manifest on the page or tell a story, and to get through to them or to that side of me through the auspices of fiction, right? Like this kind of the sandbox. So I can see that would be one way of developing it. What are other ways? If you're not literarily inclined, then you start to, I guess this is where the dressing and the production.
Okay, so if you'll notice, when the man is looking at his reflection in the monitor, I know what an autogynophiliac's habits are. So you can kind of tell when they are, that's a turned on man, that expression. And because I've been like a whore, I'm very familiar with it. And that's when they get off on that. He's looking at his reflection in the monitor, his image in the monitor right now. And you can
not at Benjamin.
Watch his face when he does it. So just so we understand, this is a fetish.
Well, because it's narcissism, right? Too.
There's a lot of course, like it's wrapped in a lot of mental illnesses, narcissistic traits. But like you'll notice even when like AGPs are making whatever the TikToks is the kids do, or whatever, and when they look at themselves, they get this look in their eye, and a lot of times their entire speech patterns will change. Like all of a sudden they'll start talking a little more feminine. You know what I mean? So just watch them carefully. I mean, he's here.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's like, how do you invoke that cross-gender spirit and get in touch with it? And there's many ways. Dressing is definitely one of the more obtainable, safe, accessible ways. It's classic. That's where the term transvestite came from, which is where the entire category of trans, when it comes to gender, came from. Transvestite was the OG kind of trans. And so basically there's ways that males and females are different that we seem to pick up on. And that is their bodies and their bodily functions, their mind, they think different and feel different, they dress different, they behave differently, and they have different social standing, different social role. So basically, when you have auto-heterosexuality, the way to get in touch with that side of yourself is to embody the other gender in those characteristics, in body, in mind, dress, acts, and social standing. And so whatever you can do that evokes that side of yourself through those behaviors, rituals, whatever you do, basically any way you can get in touch with that self, you'll want to do, and it'll make you want to do it more, and you'll feel more at home doing those things. And over time you get attached to it, and then you can feel dissatisfaction from not being able to be with your love, so to speak.
Yeah. There's that infamous GameStop video from, I guess 3 years ago now, or 4 maybe, where a man or a
you GameStop man?
Yeah, the man.
Yeah.
Somebody called this person sir, and this person got very aggressive, like somebody just called his girlfriend a bitch, right? Like it was that level.
Exactly what you said. That's because that's what's happening. It's sort of like
this.
No, a teenager called him sir. A teenager cashier at GameStop.
Yeah, but like they're getting pissed not because they're protective of some fucking female soul inside of them. It's because they are fucking fetish and get validated.
This pissed me off
at the beginning of all of this. Like when he's like, how do you get in touch with that mindset, that style of dress and their social position? So it's stereotype, and the fucking social position that is imposed by men, which is called fucking gender. So I'm sorry, that was a lot of F-bombs, but this whole but I'm sure he's being very, I really don't like autogynophiles. I really don't like this man.
Yeah. Well, I think I appreciate like the honesty of like, these are the things, these are how men and women are different. And because we have this fetish, he calls it an orientation, this is what we want to do. I appreciate the honesty and the clarity. But it's just like a little bit like, okay, that's, how do you call it a sexual orientation when it's based on a lot of these things that are based in culture? Because a sexual orientation, it wouldn't matter what dress, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's good that he's kind of just being honest, even though it is offensive and we find it kind of frustrating. But then how do you call it an orientation? Clearly it's a fetish because it's tied to just like cultural, dress and style and social position, right? And then also with the GameStop man, this is what pissed me off the first time watching this is, he kind of laughs about it, right? Like, oh, that GameStop man, right? Like, no, that was a pretty serious situation. It was probably terrifying for the teenage cashier. It would be terrifying for a woman to face that. It isn't just, haha, oh, his girlfriend was insulted. This is a deranged man, a narcissistic man. But I think he feels a sense of understanding because, oh, it's one of my people. It's one of my guys, right? But this is not okay behavior. This would not be okay behavior even if a man's girlfriend was insulted. Of course, he should defend her, but it still isn't okay to start kicking shit around. You go away, right? So a lot of things bothered me there.
Yeah.
100%. And I think if his girlfriend was being called sir, like there's no way it would have been that narcissistic rage style
no
blow up, right?
I mean, it might have been because it reflected negatively on him still.
Yeah, maybe. I also think that Benjamin here is completely pandering to this autogynophile. Like that's the other thing that bothered me is
well,
like
that's what they always do. Like, I mean, is this the kind of conversation that Richard Blanchard has with his clients, and then that's why he doesn't fucking know that most of them are pedophiles? Like,
I mean, it's male privilege. It's what it is.
Yeah, and it's a man talking to another man with the same exact viewpoint of their, that their social position has offered them.
Well, this is how he interviews. I wouldn't expect him to push back, but yes, it is kind of frustrating to see because nobody's there to say like, that was not okay, that was scary, and men shouldn't do that even if they feel insulted, even if they're AGPs, right? So, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm misgendering. It's my bad.
Were you voting Ryan Gosling in that one?
Basically, that GameStop man, that person is clearly of my kind. That's clearly someone that, as far as I can tell, is attracted to being the other sex. And so when she gets misgendered in that way, it's sort of like a very visceral feeling of, she was just feeling content in herself before that, like, oh, I'm just a woman having a nice day, just going to buy a game as women do. And then that being called he, it sharply conflicts with that inner experience she's having that feels good and just feels normal to her probably at that point. And it can be very jarring to be in that mindset and then have signs from the external world forcibly rip you out of it.
It can be very jarring to have a grown-ass man throwing shit around your store because you called him sir, which is a sign of respect. I mean, it's just the narcissism and the entitlement to violence, to insulting an entire group of people, to play it. Literally, this is woman face, you know what I mean? To putting us in boxes so they can beat off, to think that, and the reason he's going out in public is because he wants other people to see him because it gets him off. Like, it's not,
I was going to say, it's
running to GameStop. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly that I was going to add on to it, is that it's not, it's because the external validation is part of the fetish and forcing people to validate you. So
well, and he's describing narcissistic rage, like that's literally what it is, as if it's just understandable,
right? As
if it's just no big deal, everyday occurrence. That it's narcissistic rage. This man had his ego bruised and he's lashing out. He's acting like a toddler, and it's okay because he's one of my kind. I know he's not saying it's okay, but it's kind of like, oh, it's understandable. It's no big deal,
Right. Well, and because and he's calling him a she because he felt distressed. That gives him a right to be violent and break things that aren't his. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, that's not operating in reality. It's ridiculous. No. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No,
Don't shut up.
It makes me so freaking angry. And he even called, like, without even realizing it, maybe like a minute ago, literally said aloud, like, I wish I didn't have Lyme disease in my brain. So basically he just said, like, I was getting off on it in a way, because he basically outs himself as exploring his fetish in public.
Where?
Oh, we can rewind.
Maybe like a minute. He's not talking about here. It's really
the GameStop man. That person is clearly of my kind. That's clearly someone that, as far as I can tell, is attracted to being the other sex.
There we go.
So when she gets misgendered in that way, it's sort of like
to being the other sex.
Yeah.
flipped.
She was just feeling content in herself before that, like, oh, I'm just a woman having a nice day, just going to buy a game as women do. And then that being called he, it sharply conflicts with that inner experience she's having that feels good and just feels normal to her.
Do you think he means
you know what it just that's what I was just gonna say. I think it's a mix between narcissistic rage and this person gave them, like, they got rid of their
like the Chubon was gone. It was fucking a sad day for the fucking meatsicle down below. Yeah, shit.
That's exactly what happened.
You mean his girl dick? That's the worst word I've ever heard in my life. Like,
yeah,
it's really disgusting to me as well.
So disgusting.
Yeah, this whole thing is pissing me off.
Do it.
Just vape some more.
Yeah,
it's been an interesting day.
Very jarring to be in that mindset and then have signs from the external world forcibly rip you out of it.
And is that kind of what trans rights activists say when you're denying our existence, when they go to like genocide and existence level rhetoric? It's like you're in
themselves that they know, they have this very strong internal gnosis that this thing is real. They love it. They want to be in union with it. And they're, people are willing to do pretty wild shit for love. And so that is why there are such powerful emotions behind this, is because it's powered by love.
Oh yeah. Wild
Pause.
shit.
No, it's not.
Loving
Who
on
wants to
yourself.
go first?
or is
It's
it
not
like
powered
you
by
walked in
love.
on, like jerking off like in the girls' bathroom, like, or by your mom to, like, I don't know, really sketchy porn, or like, is it love, or is it like you've been interrupted mid-stroke?
Yeah. Again, it's like, I appreciate the half kind of honesty, like powerful emotions. You're interrupting, but it's hiding. He says love. It's not love. And I mean, he knows this because it's not directed to another person. It's directed to yourself.
And it's not love or admiration, respect for any women, because the moment any of us actual women say, hey, this makes me very uncomfortable and it's insulting, and here's why, you're a bigot, fuck you, TERF, I'm gonna rape you and give you AIDS. I've got
loving.
It's fun. Yeah. So loving. Loving.
Plus, like, it's not the love of woman, it's the arousal of the subjugated woman. Like, come on.
Yes.
That's what it is. Like, we need to just change the whole term altogether, because there's no love involved.
No, it's powered by sexual feelings, not love.
And specifically sexual feelings in relation to a subjugated, abused, dominated, raped woman.
Yes.
Yeah, they never cosplay as like a normal woman. It's always something weird. Like, is he wearing like arm warmers right now? You know what I mean? It's never thrown on jeans.
I mean, his style of sorry, go ahead. His style of dress isn't bothering me. It's just that we know where the fetish comes from. Like,
yeah, I will say he's a hula hooper. He kind of gets, I found his Instagram. He kind of his dress. I'm not excusing it, but he does like this hula hooping stuff, and I think it's kind of also comes from that
with his meshed in with his personality.
So, and I think that I wanted to bring this in before, and I'm just going to circle it in now. When I talked to you about this, Eva, when I spoke to Roxy about, she had a really interesting concept of where this comes from a lot of men, and it's that they were being bullied as boys because they didn't measure up, they weren't the right kind of boys, so they were like sissies. And it's something about that shame and sexualization are interlinked. And then transvestitism started around the same time that glamour modeling started. And she's under the impression, I think it's an interesting point, that they're very linked in terms of, like, there was this ideal woman placed out in like magazines and all that kind of stuff. And men kind of that didn't quite rise to the level of like their ideal rigid gender role of a man. They're like, oh, I can be this ideal version of a woman. And so it seems to me that if, like, he was probably, he felt inadequate most of his life as the male sex he was born into because of the understanding of those roles.
You're absolutely right. Actually, a lot of my customers, the autogynophiliacs, have a very strong humiliation kink.
Yeah.
And a lot of their stories will be the early first weird sexual experience that kind of scarred them. A lot of times, you know, they're caught in the act of masturbating. They are molested or raped by a male relative. They experience sexual feelings for maybe like a female relative when they see them changing, and the shame is mixed in there.
Yeah, there's something about shame and sexuality that's very
Yes.
very much.
I'm so glad you brought that up. The humiliation thing. I mean, you see that in almost all of them. That's such a common thread. Yeah.
And like Katelyn was saying earlier, that folds right in with, they view all women as sexual objects that are here to be used and humiliated, and they're playing it up.
Yeah, so this is kind of what gets me, is that even with guys like this, like I said, I don't think I would hate him. I don't think we would get along, but I do think that a lot of these feelings come from being a woman as being kind of humiliated. And I think, and that's what really gets me, and that's what really grosses me out about this stuff, because I do see that in a lot of these guys.
Yep.
What bothers me, the hand warmers don't bother me, but like, as like a high femme who like takes a lot of care with her appearance, like it bothers me that he never fucking learned how to put on makeup. Like, how about like, you know, the amount.
Well, and then the insistence that like the rest of the world pretends that they look slightly feminine, or that they're attractive in any way. Like we literally have to sit there and be like, oh yeah, you're so stunning and beautiful. I really like that you put like blue, like I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. And I'm not trying to be like a total bitch, but it's just so common. Like they don't respect women. And then they insist that the rest of the world shows the utmost respect to the point we have to suspend reality for them and allow them to abuse us. Like, no, thank you, sir. No, I'm good.
But like, I personally don't give a fuck how anyone dresses, and anyone can dress however they please. But I actually sort of love like the gay man that identifies as you know, like the same-sex attracted trends that we always kind of knew about with Pose or whatever, like that kind of thing. Like I don't mind males that dress in stereotypically feminine ways. And frankly, I didn't even used to mind the ones, like I don't mind the gay ones that do it for a different reason at all. And I like would celebrate them in a world where we could acknowledge their sex. But I do knowing a straight man is dressing this way because of the arousal, because of what they deem sexual, that's where it starts to piss me off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in passing any kind of laws that like men have to dress away or anyone has to dress a certain way. And I think that like we need to steer away from saying any kind of like gender non-conforming attire is wrong.
I don't
anyway,
think
I'm like kind of rambling, but
I don't think any woman's losing sleep over a man in a dress. And that's not my point. My point is they
oh yeah, for sure.
They claim to be more feminine. They put other women down, and they claim by putting on something different, suddenly they know what it's like to be a woman and to have been raised as a woman. That's my issue. I could give a fuck
for sure.
Who I am not losing sleep over his, you know what I mean? Like when we are like, I feel like it's a way for AGPs and stuff to say, oh, you're a bigot because you're trying to control how I'm not trying to control how you're dressing, but I will point out that it looks like shit, and I still don't think you look like a woman.
Oh, for sure. I wasn't replying to you, Bunny. I just was saying this because it was a kind of, it's been, you know, like I've heard some people say like, do men have the right to deceive us and things like that? And like, I just like, there's conversations happening in the TERF Twitterverse that like makes me want to say like I never want to control the way someone else dresses.
Yeah,
except
I know
when you're wearing fetish gear in front of children at school. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh no, I get it. And you know, to clarify, so you're probably thinking about the comments that are going to be the hateful comments that are going to be left below to like, hey, we actually don't about his arm.
Exactly.
But it's to me, it's just so insulting to every person with that's a woman that actually like is a woman and had to walk this earth as one.
Yeah.
know?
Especially women that don't wear makeup and dresses and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah.
Me. Well, that's the thing. When I see them saying, "Well," I'll see these guys post photos. They've got their makeup on, they've got their dress on. They post a selfie. They say, "Can you believe I was misgendered today? People called me sir." Blah blah blah. I look at what I'm wearing, and I'm like, I don't wear that shit ever.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you
like,
are
people assume
saying
to
you
call
should be
Eva
called
sir.
ma'am, yeah, like if you're saying you should be called ma'am because you put on makeup and a dress, then what the hell am I? Like, that's always
Yeah.
my reaction to this. Like, so you're saying
That's
that they
great.
should be calling me sir. It's so
Yeah.
fucking offensive. And I know
Yeah.
what you mean about the, like, I have a friend actually, like the guy you described, he's same-sex attracted, he's trans, he's Lois on Twitter. And he's not doing it. The gay guys,
I love Lois.
yeah, it's not
I
universal.
love Lois.
We're meeting on Saturday. We're gonna go dancing.
I mean, I think he's, I love his presence. I'm so sad about what's happening to him.
Yeah. It's and
but
in my opinion, it's not the
But-
same. Like he'll send me photos of clothes he's shopping for. I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna look fabulous. It isn't the same thing as that's just
yeah.
fun. We have fun. It's not saying, oh, I'm gonna definitely get gendered correctly. It's literally like, these are clothes I like. These are clothes that I'm gonna feel fun in. It's so
Yeah.
different than, yeah. And I like that we're kind of on the same page about that, because I understand.
Oh, for sure. And I think I know Masha is. I'm pretty sure Bunny is, because I know your
It's fine if you're
character,
not.
Bunny, but I know for sure Masha is, because that's like we've had that talk.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that wear whatever you want. I would rather, I mean, I even really respected like Eddie Izzard when he was a straight up like cross-dresser, and he would say like him and Iggy Pop.
Yes.
Like he used to put on like a gold lame dress. And they would be like, no, we're men, and like these aren't women's clothes, they're my clothes, you know. And, like I think that's actually trans, like what's the word, like that's
actually breaking gender constructs,
actually like
transgressive,
gender rebel, you know, like that. Right. Like in like a positive way, in like a progressive way, like truly it's like breaking
exactly
those like categories and like compulsory signaling.
I will say with Eddie Izzard, I have a feeling he was just waiting till the people, like the way he's behaved now, to me it seems like he was doing that because it wasn't okay to be doing what he's doing now, to be honest. Because kind of, yeah, because of the way he's changed and embraced this, I feel like he was just lying in wait until the gay trans did the hard work, you know, to me, because he's done a complete 180, and I don't know. That's my read right now.
From your own arc. So 2013, you have this experience, you push it down.
Yeah.
Because why? Because you don't want to be seen that way?
Because I'm 6'4", and there's no fucking way I'm going to transition. And like,
you could be a part of a women's basketball league or something like that and really like jack up there.
That would just give me bad gender dysphoria, because I would just.
Listen, I'm 6 feet tall, so fuck you.
You are?
Yeah.
I have you. Oh, that's sexy. I'm 5'10". I love that I have a taller woman that's friends with me, because I'm literally like, I mean, I'm taller than 99% of women, so, and men, actually. I'm not men, but I'm taller than the average man. But I love that you're 6 feet. I don't know why I thought you were like short and curvy.
Oh, no, I am.
Oh, I love it. Tall women unite.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like tall women, but what is he even on? No.
Well, he just knows he wouldn't pass, and I
say-
think, that's good.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Be obviously different.
Sorry.
You know, and also that's not fair. I wouldn't want to do that. It's not fair. But yeah, I had that experience.
You
Push
say
it down.
it's not fair to join a women's basketball league.
It might be.
Can you rewind it? Because I think we
rewind
interjected
it.
too much, and actually, that's one good thing about not being live.
Women's basketball league or something like that and really like jack up there.
That would just give me bad gender dysphoria, because I would just be obviously different, you know, and also that's not fair. I wouldn't want to do that. It's not fair. But yeah, I had that experience, tried to push it down, and it came up cyclically over time. You know, like if I was getting really like falling in love with a woman, it would go away. And then over time, once the new relationship energy from that fades, it'd come back. And that's the classic pattern that's seen in auto-heterosexuals.
So I will say, like, I think this is probably the most authentic he's been the whole episode so far. I think that point that he made where he would be obviously different and feel uncomfortable shows that he has the capacity to empathize in a way for me, because like that feels more authentic than, say, the Leah Thomas who had no care about either of those things. And was coming at it from like,
Thomas is a bad person.
Oh,
Leah
terrible
Thomas is a piece of shit person. But like to say, like to first say, I do question like that should give someone gender dysphoria to go in, like to be next to all those women. And Leah Thomas is 6'4". There was a lie going around on Twitter. Did you see that with the whole like there was a lie that they tried to say he was 5'9" on Twitter for a little bit. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
I think that rings
And then
a
now
bell.
his height was changed to 6'1". But in speaking with Kim Jones from Icons, like she says 6'4" in the anonymous podcast, which is why I said he was 6'4". Then I spoke to her again when I finally figured out who she is. And then Riley Gaines also said 6'4". So Leah Thomas is 6'4". They try to say he's 6'1" right now online, but they try to lie for a little while and say that Leah Thomas was 5'9". But I want to say, I do think going back to now that Masha's back, I think this is like an authentic moment for him where he's like, A, that would give me dysphoria, which makes sense, and B, it's not fair. And I appreciate the logical like through line of that, and like the identity as like a gender dysphoric trans-identified man, personally.
Psychology literature points this sort of pendulum out.
A perpetual infatuation.
It's a very common pattern where if you have a strong attraction to being the other sex and then you fall in love with a woman and you start dating her, there'll be like 6 months to a year and a half maybe where that new relationship energy is from your allo-heterosexuality is keeping the auto-heterosexuality at bay. But then once that fades, that inner woman starts to make her presence more known. And then there's this tension between what your two different sides of your heterosexuality want. And so it creates this tension and split inside of you.
I think what he's actually trying to say is, so I can be interested in a woman and sexually aroused by her for about 6 months, maybe a year. Then I get bored and want to start indulging in fetish again. And she doesn't like it because it's insulting to women. Like,
yeah. And this is a common thing for AGPs, like in speaking to some trans widows, if anyone doesn't know, is like a person that was married to a trans identified man before they identified as trans, and then divorced and called trans widows. I mean AGPs and Dr. Blanchard says the same thing, that like it's pretty consistent where they're like their AGP subsides when they're in a relationship, then it comes back after a certain time. And it is that like, just I can be sexually attracted to another woman for a certain amount of time and then my fetish comes back, basically.
Yeah, especially because of the value of having an other that you're in love with and intimate with, and then risking that. And I'm sure there's a slew of emotions too: embarrassment, shame,
exactly,
confusion. Yeah.
And before I understood how this worked, I had no idea. There's no way I could have introspected my way to figuring out that I had an autosexual orientation that was causing me to be wanting to be female. And so that's why once I finally, I was dating a woman in 2019 and for a bit, and there was a point in that relationship where we were talking about sex and gender and transgenderism. It came up, and I didn't think that it was possible to change sex. And this really bothered her. And she was just saying, like, trans women are women, trans women are women. Like, that is, you're familiar with that. And it created tension that I had this feeling that like, no shit, I wish I was female, but I know I'm not one. You know, I felt that there was a difference between wanting to be a thing and actually being the thing. And after that relationship dissolved shortly thereafter. That was the nail in the coffin on that one. And so I went to the library to learn about transgenderism because I was wondering, am I wrong about this? And do I have opinions that are harmful to trans people? Like, I wanted to know. And also, even though I wasn't admitting to myself, I wanted to know for myself to figure out what my gender issues. And then I went to the library, got, you know, Alice Dreger's Galileo's Middle Finger, that pointed to Bailey's The Man Who Would Be Queen. And then once I learned about Autogynophilia, from there, I read a whole bunch of different sources. I ran into, you know, I watched the interviews you did with the sexologists, and I basically listened to any interviews I could find.
Has anybody read any of the books that he's referring to, or are any of you familiar with them? Because I'm sure is not. I'm not.
I read a bit of The Man Who Would Be Queen, but not the whole thing. And I'm familiar with like the story of Michael Bailey and everything. So yeah.
Is Michael Bailey a trans person?
No,
or-
he's a sexologist and he wrote a book. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that like one of the subjects of the book was like homosexual, transsexual, and the other, or maybe I could be wrong, but Michael Bailey's a sexologist. He ascribes to the whole like autogynophile. He believes in that. He like is part of that crew of sexologists that like has that theory. So he read his book. That's good that he found his book instead of other stuff he could have found. And then Galileo's Middle Finger, I think, details how Michael Bailey, they came after him for that book. Like trans activists, you know, cross-dressers, they came after him. They tried to ruin his life. They spread rumors that he was a pedophile. They did all sorts of horrible things to him just because he was trying to be honest, just because he was trying to actually describe what this was. So he's along the likes of Blanchard and stuff, you know.
So is he saying he's at this rate at 2019, he still didn't identify as trans? Or was he identifying as trans but didn't really understand it?
He wasn't. He doesn't think that he wished he could be female, but he doesn't think that he can actually be female.
So he was just, so he hadn't been out to this person in 19 when he expressed this? Or I'm trying to understand, was he dressing as a woman or whatever in 19 when he was dating this girl?
No, he wasn't 19. This was in 2019, he was just with someone. He knows he's not a woman, so he wasn't trying to be one. Like, he hasn't taken hormones or anything. And they were just discussing sex and gender, and the woman was kind of apparently trying to get him to say trans women are women and stuff. And he was like, well, no, they're not.
But he said it related to himself, right? Because he knows he's male. So I'm just like wondering if he was identifying as trans at all.
I don't think he ever has identified. He identifies as trans as far as he knows. He has this, what he calls an orientation, but I don't think he ever identified as trans. I could be wrong, but I don't think he ever did. Yeah.
Okay.
Any secondary sources I could find, and then I started getting into primary sources, and basically I sort of developed an autistic fixation of reading the sexology literature relating to autogynophilia, and I just kept reading. And there's a couple of points during this where I tried asking trans women online, like, hey, it seems like I'm having this experience, and it seems that in these scientific books, it's saying that this is what I'm experiencing, and it's matching up pretty well. What do any of you have experience with this? Like, what's your opinion on it? And as you might imagine, that did not go well. And so that was really confusing to have basically trans women unanimously tell me I was wrong. And it was kind of an over-the-top way. It was kind of suspicious. And so it made me doubt myself, because there was not even one person saying, yes, I experienced that, it's real. There was just complete doubt. And so it made me go all the way back to Hirschfeld.
Who's he?
He wrote
German?
Yeah, he's an absolute legend, that man. He wrote Die Transvestiten, which has been translated by Michael Lombardi Nash. Yeah, he's uploaded the English translations to Amazon. I recommend anyone check them out. Hirschfeld wrote Transvestites, and it's until Anne Lawrence's book came out in 2013, it was still the best book on the subject. So it took over a century for another book to be better one on the subject of attraction to being the other sex. And so, yeah, in Hirschfeld's book, he defines transvestite as people who wear clothing of the other sex as a valid symbol of interpersonality. And he said that they're not homosexual. This is a different thing. Although he acknowledged there were some homosexual transvestites, but most of them didn't seem to be. And it seemed that there was a type of transvestism that happened to heterosexuals.
So are they or aren't they?
And so, yeah,
There's no set, they just keep changing the goalposts, man. They're moving them just to make it fit whatever they want. Sorry. Pisses me the F off. It's very, very dishonest.
Yeah. Well, this is just transactivism, right? Dishonest. Transactivism. It's dishonest. They don't want people to know about autogynophilia, and so they deny it and get angry and slur and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he did say that, right? That when he was trying to move the circles and ask questions, they were like, they basically hostile, but like to it as a suspicious extent, right? Meaning that probably they absolutely knew.
Literature, at least whatever's been translated into English, because the German stuff goes farther back, but I don't speak that. And I just went from the sexology literature from the beginning to the end, checking back and forth multiple times to see what seems to be real, what seems to have held up over time, which ideas seem to have been dropped because they weren't accurate. And I eventually realized that, the sexologists were right. And there did seem to be two types of transgenderism. And the type that I had was the most common. And I became certain of that. And then it just bothered me that there's millions of people that have this orientation that are not being told this is what you're experiencing. And it's fine to be this thing. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to being the other sex. It's fine. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But it bothers me that it's being covered up. And so there's millions of people that are privately experiencing these feelings. They have this inner turmoil and they don't talk about it. And it tears them up on the inside. And we don't hear about it because they're not talking about it with anyone. A lot of clinicians don't even know about this because the suppression has gone so extreme. There's not even Wikipedia pages for autogynophilia and autointerphilia.
Seriously?
Yes, there used to be, but you try looking it up. It diverts. It'd be like if there wasn't a Wikipedia page for homosexuality or for lesbians or for gay men. This is sort of how intense this cover-up is and the intense scale of it. And so if you try to go to those Wikipedia pages, it redirects you towards a page called Blanchard's Transsexuals and Taxonomy or Typology. And it just makes sure to point out that, hey, this is controversial, but this is what he said. It frames it as a way where it's like, you shouldn't believe this. Good people don't believe this. But then it kind of tells you the goods. And it just bothered me that basically that some of the transsexual subset of autoheterosexuals have worked together to cover it up. And it's not that they have a strong conspiracy in the sense that they have secret meetings on Discords where they're planning and plotting shit. It's just emotionally unsatisfying to hear this explanation when you do have these strong feelings about the side of yourself and you get attached to it over years and you have your own idea of who you are and how you came to be that way. It can really mess with your mind to be told that you feel this way because you're actually of your birth sex and a type of heterosexual associated with that. And it conflicts with that beloved self-image, and it can be painful for transsexuals to hear this theory. And I understand that. I'm sympathetic to it somewhat, but it's not okay to cover that up so that and keep the rest of us from being able to understand what we're going through, just because some of our kind can't handle it.
Yeah. So it might be the case that male sexuality isn't respected in a way, isn't allowed to be more than just sex, right? It can be like, I'm not just a heterosexual, like I'm a lover, I'm a romantic.
Right, you're hetero-romantic too.
Yeah. It's not just a physical thing. Like it's all this stuff. It builds it into my entire worldview of how I construct my life and live my life and value people.
Yeah, exactly. What you just said was very on point with my understanding of how sexuality works. And that happens with autoheterosexuality, where it changes how you view the other sex and how you think of them. And it will make you shape your life in ways that accommodate your sexuality. And just as heterosexuals do when they get married and have kids and all that. And I get that there's something special about heterosexuality, alloheterosexuality, in that having kids is necessary for continued civilization. I get that there is something special about conventional heterosexuality that should not be poo-pooed. But
I just noticed that I think he invented.
I'm very confused as to what's happening right now.
Okay.
Why?
I mean, it just. Someone else tried to translate. It just seems like two men are talking to each other about this notion. It just seems like they're, I don't know, misinterpreting their sex drive. I don't know. Is there a specific kind of heterosexual romantic? Like, people can be romantic and I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Well, I think
have a sexuality.
Benjamin is just saying that, let's say you're a heterosexual man, that it isn't only about sex, that you fall in love with women, that you want to build a life with women, that you want to have kids, you want to have a family. And I think he's just trying to say that there's also more to the autosexuality. I have issues with that, but I think that's what he's saying, right? Like, there is more to it. You want more than just sex. You want a fulfilling romantic relationship in your whole life. And so the other guy, Phil, is saying, like, yeah, that's how us autosexuals, how he describes it, will build our life around this sexuality that we have in a similar way.
Okay, and then Masha
also mixing in another word there. I think he's saying autogynophiles, and then I think he's saying allosexuals and
allosexual.
Allosexual, like allopathic medicine, like the conventional, like societally approved one.
Like liking other people, basically. Like, because he's saying auto, because he's an autosexual.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then allosexuals like other people. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I think that the issue is that this entire conversation is based around a falsehood. Even I didn't realize even the title of the thing is, because I intentionally watched this blind for the first time. This is my first time viewing it. And does it say sexual orientation fueling transgender or whatever? Is that the title of the episode?
That's
I think so.
Episode title, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's just that it's difficult for me to follow this conversation because it seems like it's based on a fallacy.
Why?
Because autogynophilia is not a sexual orientation.
Oh yeah, the whole thing is that this Phil guy is writing a book, and he is trying to frame it as a sexual orientation. Right. Like I said, I don't agree.
Well, so does that's what I mean. He's not the only person that's saying this. Like
no, he's not. No.
Debbie Hayton says the same thing, that it's heterosexuality turned inward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not understand the compulsion to create like category upon label just to describe things that we all innately do. Like, I'm attracted to other people. That doesn't require what allosexual, like.
No, I hate that term. I hate it. It doesn't require it.
Why?
Well, it's because we're now classifying autogynophilia. Like, it's because he's trying to classify autosexuality.
Right, but my question is, like, what is with the, like, I don't understand the compulsion. Like, what are they getting from it? Right? Obviously, in order to be compelled to keep doing it, like they're gaining something from it. But maybe I'm just stupid. Like,
it's control of language. Because if you control the language, you can control the narrative. So I don't know if that's what he's doing, but that's what the movement is doing in terms of changing language, in terms of redefining what reality is. It's because that's how, I mean, that's fascism 101.
I mean, I can step out.
That's authoritarianism 101. You control colonialism is literally like,
I mean, like, on an individual basis though, right? Because like,
I think that this movement's impacting us in such a way. They're colonizing our minds right now. So that's why these conversations are being prompted, is because the overarching movement is colonial in nature. And so it's causing people to, I mean, it's changing intentionally changing how we think. And it's breeding these kind of conversations in the same way it breeds TRAs, in my opinion. Someone could disagree with
literally breeding a desire though to, I don't know, like, I don't want to say like have problems or like be neurodivergent, but it feels like it.
Well, yeah, it breeds oppression fetishism is what I call it, or like oppression Olympics and that kind of thing.
For it.
Yeah, my issue with this guy is it's kind of like he's got one foot in and one foot out, because he definitely is kind of on the outside of the typical trans narrative. At the same time, right, he's using these terms, allosexual, all this and stuff. And also earlier, if you guys, I don't know if you caught it, he was kind of talking about Therians, other kin, things like that. Like I saw another interview with him where he was really taking them seriously, and I couldn't keep watching that interview because I was like, hey, this guy's taking like other kin seriously, right? So on one side of it, it's like, it's like if you identify as like a different species or even just a fucking alien.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
those
so-
assholes that are like, I'm a bear sexual and
Yeah.
yeah,
Pretty
like,
much. So he kind of, it's refreshing in a way to be like, oh, this guy knows he's got autogynophilia. He's trying to tell other people that this is what it is. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, he's still fully into this. He kind of buys into the whole theory and otherkin stuff. He's using these terms. So that's kind of what's frustrating. If they were all like him, I wouldn't care. It would be okay. But it still is, it's still annoying to see him half in a way.
yeah,
know?
well, he's using the word autogynophilia, but he's changing the meaning to suit his fetish.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't invented, but he's trying to have the term auto-heterosexual be more common. Yeah.
Oh, that's just painful. Okay.
Basically, the auto-heterosexuals, they shape their lives to fit those strong innermost feelings. And that can often, a lot of them might decide to transition, or they might decide to move to a city where it's okay to cross-dress, or basically it shapes their life in strong ways that when they're doing all these actions, it doesn't feel like I'm doing this because it's a sex thing. Like if you go to a wedding and you're watching people get married, you're not going to snicker to the person next to you. They're like, oh, this is a sex thing, because it goes so much deeper than eroticism. There's very strong feelings.
Yeah. Or once you, well, okay, so there's a prior orientation to your sexuality that I'm sensing, an orientation towards the truth, towards honesty that's guiding you through this process. You mentioned, you evoked the word autistic fixation, right?
Yeah.
Which is a behavioral thing, but you're oriented in a way where you don't want to be deluded, or you can't just accept the cognitive dissonance. You have to wrestle with this dissonance, which is allowing you to suffer, let's say, in doubt.
Yeah, I couldn't lie with when I learned about this, it kept bothering me that I would get pushback from people. They tell me that these are transphobic, harmful narratives made by transphobic scientists. But no, this is all discussions on the moral level. It's about ought, but I want to know about is. I want to know what is real. And I found that there was strong social pressure pushed against me to lie. And I didn't think that it was fair that I would have to lie just because some of my kind couldn't handle the truth about where their transgender inclination came from. And so I was unwilling to lie. And yeah, and the fixation on believing in objective truth is probably related to autism. I've noticed that among the self-aware auto-heterosexuals online, a very disproportionate number of us are autistic, where we can sort of separate what is true from what is a good idea politically or socially. And there are some well-established scientific truths that are unspeakable in the public sphere today. And I'm not going to name the specifics. I'm sure you can think of a couple that have massive impacts on societal structure and just intense impacts, but we can't talk about them. And so it just bothered me that I was basically being told you have to lie. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. But that aside, how do you make peace with the truth insofar as you see it? Like, what is the process of accepting yourself as you are?
That autosexual orientations don't necessarily harm other people because it's about a relationship with yourself, and you can always consent to yourself. And so there's just this question about how you go about it. There's a lot of political discussions about which rooms trans people are allowed to go and what activities they're allowed to participate in. And so we're having this cultural conversation around what are the limits of expression of this thing.
Yeah.
Although without acknowledging what the thing is, but we're figuring out as a society right now, in which ways is it appropriate to integrate trans people into society as their gender, and in which ways is it more appropriate to treat them according to their sex. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's something that the liberal process of discourse is, I think, going to hash out. And I kind of want it to get hashed out quicker. So there's part of me wanting to get this out there, like the explanation of where transgenderism comes from, because the war with the TERFs has been going on for 3 or 4 decades at this point, and it's not gonna. I mean, it won't ever end. There's always gonna be some amount of conflict to some extent, but I'd like it to be a little less intense and unhinged on both sides.
Yes.
Both sides.
So there's different levels. I just spoke with Taftaj, April.
Can you pause it actually?
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get the worry that like this is very deliberate. I didn't realize, because I wanted my reactions to be in real time and authentic. I didn't even realize he was writing a book. And it's starting to feel like a David Hayton, Debbie Hayton situation where you're trying to control the opposition, and it feels very, I'm trying to normalize my fetish so that I'm gonna have this long conversation and make it as palatable and talk about love. And it feels extremely manipulative now, honestly, like right now. This is how it's starting to feel to me.
Now, does Benjamin, that's the guy that's interviewing him, voice
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Autogynophilia, like, how did they cross paths?
Benjamin just finds people. Phil Illy did a video prior to this with someone else that perhaps maybe was brought to his attention, but I don't know how exactly they crossed paths. Yeah.
I mean, I, as you guys, I'm sure have picked up on, I don't know shit about anything, especially, I'm just an ex, like, sex worker.
Well, I've been telling you to join TERF Twitter, because Instagram is not where it's at. I'm only on Instagram to break through the freaking
grow up and
try to break through the algorithm of propaganda, but this is like, I know all these people because of TERF Twitter personally.
Yeah, I'll get my shit together.
Get on TERF Twitter, Bunny.
Join us.
Please.
Absolutely. I just, to me, this feels like two men talking about shit they really don't have perspective on. Like, that's what it feels.
Yeah, that's been coming up in my head the whole time, is that if there was a woman in this conversation.
Oh, but there is.
We need it. Like, women need to be at the fucking table, at every table, because this is not. They're talking
bullshit.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but
well, Benjamin is not going to push back, even when he has, radical feminist guests and stuff. He doesn't do that. It's just trying.
I'm like, it's not about him pushing back. It's just they're both speaking from a very male lens.
Yes, they are, absolutely.
And therefore it's not constructive in the way that I think it could be if there was just a woman on the wall, being like, well,
exactly.
I think that, that's all.
Well, I like your comment about how it is kind of in a way manipulative, because if he says he's being honest, and sometimes he is, but if this truly is, a sexual orientation, then why do we even need to have a discussion about, where we classify these men by their sex and where we classify by them as their gender? Why? If this is just a sexual orientation, why are there any times where they should be classified according to their gender? Right? So he's
saying that about the ones.
No, he's saying that about himself. He's saying that because in his mind, trans people, he believes in the two typologies, the homosexual ones and the straight ones. But he says, I wish we would hurry up with this conversation about where we can have them, where we can't, and the war with the TERFs and everything. But then why doesn't he understand? Why should we accommodate them anywhere? Why, just because you have this sexual orientation, should you be accommodated anywhere in any of our spaces?
Right.
Like, live your life, be honest. That's fine. But why should we welcome you?
Right. And on top of that, why should your sexual orientation now, like, seep into people's inherent rights, like to safety and privacy? Like, little girls shouldn't be forced to, and people are saying
uproot their lives because of your sexual orientation.
Right. It's just not the case. I mean, we can look at how many rapists, like violent male criminals, now have been able to weasel their way into the female prison system. Female inmates are literally the most vulnerable, traumatized demographic of women. And because they are on the low totem pole, it's like, oh, well, they're locked behind a cage and really can't even, advocate for themselves. Why is his orientation, which fetish, is more, why does that take precedence all of a sudden now?
Yeah, I don't think this guy would say it would, but go ahead.
I'm just going to propose that we stop the video here for now because it sounds like we've got a lot to talk about. When we last left off, we were basically watching two men not getting it about female like internal and experienced and lived reality, but nevertheless sallying forth in a very brave and expansive way to describe that. What were you, Katelyn? You had some insights while we were on break that I wanted you to like revisit.
So we were chatting about Ben, and it's not that I don't think Ben is really doing anything wrong in how he's interviewing. I think where the problem comes in is that it's two men discussing something that they just don't fully understand. And even if they're coming from a place of wherever they're coming from, it can be the best place in the world. But if there's not a woman at the table discussing this, it's not going to be a progressive and not going to be move the conversation forward. That's what I mean by progressive. I don't mean like left progressive, but
yeah, I also want to point out that we're maybe 35 minutes into an hour and 55-minute conversation. And I think that Katelyn and Bunny, you are already seeing that it's like driving towards an agenda, which is like normalizing a sexual fetish and categorizing it, or recategorizing it, reimagining it as like a legitimate sexuality. And I think, yeah, Bunny, you were especially struck by that, and like you had commented that a couple of times. Hey,
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a serious issue when we start taking paraphilias, which autogynophilia is absolutely a paraphilia, and moving the goalposts to make them work, you know, to push a narrative forward, one that injures and worse girls and women. Autogynophilia is not a sexual orientation. I will die on this hill because it's just simply not. And no one's sexual fetish or even their sexual orientation really has any business impeding on the basic human rights and safety of others. And do women care if men wear dresses? No. And let's like take that issue off the table. That's not what's keeping us up at night. It's women being sacrificed to a fetish. And autogynophilia is not an orientation. Never will be.
Yes,
exactly. And Eva, you and I, sorry, I just wanted to ask Eva, like did you feel a chill like during this portion of like initially watching the video like I did, where I was like, I also don't have a standard sexuality. Like if they attach themselves now like completely to like LGBTQ, like yes, and born this way and stuff, like where, how is that going to impact those of us, you know, like.
That is a salient point
that
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's my.
About, which is why it's so important to have someone at the table with that experience, because I'm a lesbian, so it didn't cross my fucking head. Anyway, Eva, go ahead.
No, yeah, I completely agree. Like to frame it as just another sexual orientation, like heterosexuality, like homosexuality, which are both oriented outwards towards other people. Like that's what they have in common. Like they're different, but they're the same in that way. And so to say this kind of autosexuality that he's trying to coin, you know, there's an element to it where it's refreshing to hear a guy talking about kind of trying at least to be honest and say and admit that this is my sexual orientation turned inwards. But to frame it as anything other than like a fetish is kind of disingenuous. It's kind of clouding the issue. You know, where we left off, they were talking about the battle with the TERFs and where we should accommodate these men and where we shouldn't accommodate these men. And it's like, why should we accommodate them anywhere? Right. And even when it comes to, let's say, a lesbian, right, there is literally nothing, like I still belong in women's spaces. I still belong. There's nothing extra in terms of where I go as a woman that we need to have a discussion about. So why, when it comes to these guys, do we need to have that discussion? Right. So I agree that he is in a way attaching himself to us in a way that I don't want him to. Yeah. That's a very good point.
Right.
I feel like a whole book should be written about that, or at least an article.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback and circle back to what you had discussed with Bunny about both of us mentioning that this feels manipulative. What comes to my head is that there's a Debbie/David Hayden. is a very well-known autogyne AGP on this side of the conversation or this side of the argument. And the problem is he has gone to great lengths, like he to change what's going on in the school systems. And he's controlled opposition. You know, David Hayden is extremely manipulative, and he has an agenda. And that's the only reason he's fighting the way he's fighting. So he's now, you know, the good pet, the good AGP that we can platform and have this conversation. And I don't know much about, I don't even remember his name. What's the name of Benjamin's guest, the AGP?
Phil Illy.
Oh, Phil Illy. Yeah.
Okay, so Phil Illy, I don't know this about him, but it reeks of Hayden. And it was really starting to come in, like I will admit, because of my history with abuse, because of my CSA history, I'm ready to see a pedophile everywhere. I don't trust most men, and I'm gonna think bad about you before I think good of, or not think. I'm gonna treat you as a threat until you prove otherwise. That's how it is. So it could be my position and my natural disposition, but I don't trust that he is speaking authentically. I think he's trying to present a reasonable argument so he can get what he wants.
Do you think that's conscious? Like, do you think? Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
I really do. I think it's conscious with Hayden. I think it's conscious with this man. I think that there could be some part of him that wants to deny it within himself, and maybe for that. But I think he knows. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, he's writing a book. It's very intentional. He's trying to craft this. He's trying to say this is a sexuality, so much so that he's writing a book about it. That's how much he's trying to push this narrative.
So you think he's refining his argument in this interview, or do you think that he's already sort of like conceptualized this pretty extensively, and then he's just like, he's like floating it publicly?
If he's writing a book, he's thought about this. At least I'm a writer, and I write you know, in length. Like, it's not just an article. Like, I wrote a screenplay. I'm writing another screenplay. Like, you know, my first draft of my first one was 150 pages. So like, there's a lot of thinking, that goes on before you start to write something that's that long.
And Bunny, what do you think? Like, I really would like to know what kind of instinctual reaction he set off in you in that sense. Like, do you think this is a master manipulator, sort of like angling for sympathy because he's in love with something he can never have, right? Or do you like, what are your like kind of reactions viscerally to his argument and him?
Talked and interacted with a lot of men like him. I think a lot of it is actually subconscious and kind of a drive. Like, everybody has, as a human, like, you know, to stay alive, like that urge to protect themselves or their goal. And a lot of mentally ill people, which an autogynophiliac is by definition mentally ill, develop coping skills, whether, you know, they're good or bad, healthy or not. And, you know, nobody wants to think of themselves as the problem, right? Or the issue at hand. Even when he's talking out loud, I'm hearing him contradict himself sometimes, moving the goalpost to fit his narrative. I think part of it is, like, he is aware of, like, if he like actually had to come to, I don't believe in Jesus, but like a Jesus moment there.
I do.
Yeah, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I was just
I just wanted the world to know that there's two people. One does, you know, just because there's diversity of voices here. That's all.
Like, I think if he was, like, you know, forced to be honest with himself, and he might be like, okay, I am manipulating things to make it easier on me, whatever he's getting from it. I think it's a mixture of both. I truly do. People are really good at lying to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we that is true.
I think that if more AGPs approached it the way he does, we would be better off. I truly do. You know, if they were like, hey, I'm not a woman, like, I do appreciate that. But you can kind of see in how he laughs off the GameStop ma'am, and how he just says, oh, it's understandable, that there isn't a real woman's perspective here. He can talk as much as he wants about the woman inside and the woman mind and the female soul, but it's not there. It's not there. And like something that this kind of inspired was me thinking that just regular old heterosexual men who just love women externally understand us more, as little as they do, than a guy like this. I don't think he's horrible. The sense I'm getting is I just don't think he's a terrible person, and I wish that more of them were this honest, but it's not the whole way, right? It still is kind of like holding back and maybe in a way lying to himself, possibly.
Right. And the rub is if it's truth with lies, then it's still a dishonest narrative that's hurtful to girls and women.
Yeah.
For me, that there's like a double bind, or like, no, that's not the right catch-22, maybe, I'm not sure. But there's a problem here for me with him being open and honest about being an autogynophile, because he doesn't have the shame to hide it, in a sense, right? It means to me that he's signaling that, yes, I'm honest about that AGP exists and that it's problematic, and I'm going to describe it in super romantic terms and begin to move that Overton window of what's possible into possibly AGP, or like auto heterosexuality, or whatever he's trying to invent words for, is like legitimate in the sense that it deserves to be respected and the right, fully, like, you know, endowed with all of the rights, and that it's harmless.
Not harmless.
Yeah, I mean, he's lying about what AGP is. We all know this. We all know the progression it takes for a man to get to this point. He's not even telling the truth about what he's experiencing, you know, which is, and the thing is, we cannot normalize sexual deviancy. We cannot make it so like we cannot redefine, we cannot let sexual deviance define what their sexual deviancy is.